Welcome. This is Stephen Lee, and this is Life and the Living of It. I want to talk about one experience, an extended experience that I had at summer camp. I started off as a camper in 4th grade at Camp Chrysalis up in Kerrville, Texas. It was a Lutheran camp, and yes, it was a religious camp. We prayed, we had worship, we had Bible studies. We had 1 week in a cabin with a counselor. There were the traditional activities, canoeing, archery, hiking, sports, some low ropes course, confidence course activities. But really what was different was that not only the counselors and the staff, but the campers were always taught that this was an intentional Christian community. We were reminded with morning devotions and prayers before and after each meal, and Bible study and 2 worships a day, and evening devotions, that this was a community of believers. This was a community of love and service and learning and fun. And I was privileged to have 4th through 8th grade and then being a staff my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years and 4.5 years through college. And when I say I was privileged, I mean just that. During my first 2 years of being a staff, I was on support staff. I was 16 years old and 17 years old. At the time, I was going through chemotherapy for bone cancer. I had no hair, no eyebrows, very few eyelashes at the time, and yet the staff welcomed me. I just became part of the community. But the acceptance I got in this community of Camp Chrysalis, I did not get outside of it. In the summertime when I would be a staff there, it would charge me up. It would fill me with acceptance and joy and a sense of belonging and a sense of value. I made dear friends. I fell in love several times. It was like life concentrated. But I didn't really recognize the privilege of having had these experiences until after the summer was over. And the first 2 years I went back and tried to describe these experiences to one of my dear friends. Now my friend, and I'll call her Shelley, at the time I didn't understand that she was in an abusive home. I didn't understand the cycle of violence that kept happening there. I was oblivious to the traumas. But about 1 or 2 days after I came back home from the summer, I went over there. And we would be on her front porch in the swing, and she insisted I tell her everything I had experienced at camp. And she listened raptly. I would tell her the highlights, like the one time this other staff member told me that she thought she was in love with me. And about the time that I put an unbalanced load in one of the few dryers there, and the entire trailer that had the washer and dryer in it started shaking back and forth. I was sure at any moment that the trailer would just shake itself apart. And I told of the times that in our first cabin there, we didn't have any running water. We would have to go to the kitchen to go to the bathroom, and we'd have to hike down to one of the field cabins to take a shower in the morning. And even just the things that I took for granted, like doing a trash run and going to the dump, running the tiny little John Deere tractor and mowing around the edges where the big tractor couldn't get to. Singing at the top of my lungs out in the field somewhere with my Walkman on while I was mowing the grass. All of these things she just soaked in. And then I told her about my many experiences with doing devotions for the kids, and the transformative experiences with the staff, and the sing-alongs, my 2 weeks working in the kitchens. If this sounds boring to you, at the time I thought this must be really boring to her. But she just absorbed it. She listened raptly. And at the time, I really didn't understand why. She would tell me, take as many pictures as you can. And I did. I took hundreds. And I got them developed, and I brought them over, and we went through the pictures of the camp, the people, the stories behind some of the pictures. And she would ask me, describe what it feels like to be on the bluff overlooking the camp. And she would ask, when did you feel the happiest? And when did you feel the most joyful? When did you feel the most free? When did you feel the most loved? And these conversations would last for 3-4 days after I came back home. She wanted to know everything. It was only after several years, when she grew up, she moved out of the house, she got into a relationship, that I found out why those stories of my camping experience were so important to her. For she was not privileged like I was. She said the worst times were the summer, because I wasn't around. And she would have days that it was only her dad and her brother. In that house, she only got criticism. She was put to work. There was no real love. There was no real hope. And she would wait throughout the whole summer until I got back so she could experience my summer. She could feel and understand and see my experiences. She said, "You were living a life and I was just surviving. But through you, I got to see what living may have looked like for me had I had the chance." And she literally said it kept her sane. My stories of camp kept her sane. I was privileged to have the camping experience. I was privileged to find a community of faith, a place that intentionally loved God and loved one another. And at the time I was going through it, I didn't realize how blessed I was, that a lot of people don't have those experiences. I found a place that accepted me for the bald, no eyebrow, strange little kid going through chemotherapy. I found an extended family there. People who, yes, they made fun of my Argyle socks, but they loved me. It was a place of belonging that I would feel that belonging for 5 more years of being a staff. But my friend Shelley only felt like she belonged, possibly only with me. At least, I hope so. I hope the many hours on her porch when I talked about camp and all the amazing experiences I had there, that she felt like she belonged, that I was bringing a camp of 2, she and I, when I visited her. Now later, when I lost touch with her and when I became assistant director and director of the summer camp, I realized that it wasn't my call to make sure we had an intentional Christian community of love and service and care for one another just at camp. In fact, if I only helped do that for 3 months, I failed for the rest of the year. But more importantly, to take the intention of creating and fostering a space and a place of acceptance, of love, of experience, of discovery, a space and a place where I help enable people to have experiences that are life-affirming, love-affirming. That was my calling 24/7, 365. Because I was blessed and I was privileged to have had that foundation where I was in a Christian community, that I had the experiences that developed my faith, that developed my ability to love my neighbor, that helped me to love myself, that it was my calling to create that space and place and intention with everyone I met. Because I was blessed, so I could be a blessing. I could bring camp wherever I went. Because everyone needs a space and a place where they are loved and can love. And this is life and the living of it.